Spring by Henrik Gibson. My favorite season is spring, when nature reveals all her bling. All the emerald greens, oh, the flowers I've seen. Spring bling makes me want to sing.
Jeffries?
Well, 2 months of the year, August and March, are completely devoid of any major holidays, with the possible exception of an early Easter. While St. Patrick's Day leaves me scratching my head, and Pi Day really takes the cake. I thought, well, we need something to celebrate, so this is it. An equinox occurs twice a year, around March 20th and September 22nd. The word itself has several related definitions. The oldest meaning is the day when daytime and night are approximately equal duration. The word equinox comes from the definition derived from the Latin equus, equal, and nox, night. Equinox is not exactly the same as the day when the period of daytime and night are of equal length for two reasons. Firstly, sunrise, which begins daytime, occurs when the top of the sun's disk rises above the eastern horizon. Let's put it this way. Where the orbit is elliptical. It's not a perfect circle. So I guess that would explain it in that term. Anyway, I was going through a few things, and a few days ago I pulled up a column here from Margaret, and this appeared in the paper on Sunday, March 19th, 2006. This is probably about the first column of hers that I read. And for some reason, I was so impressed with it that I decided to hang on to it. And so I'm going to read it for you now. And it just, to me, every time, this time of the year, it just brings up something. Equinox remains one of life's constants. In the human world, wars begin and end, empires rise and fall, fashions change with constant frequency. Uncertainty is the hallmark of all human affairs. But regardless of the chaotic state of world history, the equinoxes and the two solstices occur with comforting predictability. So predictable are these seasonal events that eons ago, ancient astronomers helped to design monuments that would record to the nth degree just when these events would take place, even to the unseeable future. It matters not at all what state the affairs of humans might be in. The vernal equinox, which marks the moment in time when days and nights are of equal duration, will happen at its appointed moment. For more time than we can imagine, that momentous occasion was a time of celebration, rejoicing, thanksgiving, and hope. It marked the time when spring arrived and the earth awakened. It meant the beginning of a new season of growth and fecundity. It meant the continuance of life itself. No longer do we urban dwellers experience in a meaningful way this great solar event. We neither celebrate it nor pay it much heed. We go about our affairs as though nothing out of the ordinary were happening. We are disconnected from the land and from the seasons, and in that disconnection we experience many of the nameless maladies of spirit that are reflected in our vacuous and materialist culture. But for those who have maintained a close connection to the elements, the earth, the great circadian rhythms, March 20th is a day in which we rejoice. We know better than to think we will awaken to a day when the land has gone green and the flowers are blooming. Rather, we here in the North Country are well aware of the fact that winter trickles away in small rivulets and slow ice melt. In the North, nothing about this season is rushed. Spring arrives slowly as a child who dawdles on his way to school. It is deliberate and unhurried, and yet once the days begin to lengthen, it is for certain that there is no turning back. The song of the cardinal punctures the stillness of an early spring dawn. The pussy willows begin to poke their silvery heads out of brown pods. Deep down, where all of the roots are curled tightly together and a current of energy causes them to stir. The nights may be frosty as January, the ground rock hard, but the sun has an intensity it never had in December. If you look closely, the bulbs planted last fall have begun to crack open the frozen soil. So I will celebrate this defining moment, this vernal equinox, as I've done for so many years now. I will be there at dawn to give thanks and to sing a blessed psalm. In the future, this garden may be covered by tons of concrete, only a memory. But for now, it is a sacred place where spring and life are recognized and revered. I just wanted to add one footnote. Yes, we can still get snow and winter-like conditions after the equinox. When we do, it just simply means that Mother Nature and Father Time are feuding.
Thank you, Jeff. Margaret?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned I wrote that. I have no recollection of it, but I don't remember what I wrote yesterday. So that's okay. You can plagiarize me. I wouldn't know the difference. When we think of spring, our thoughts often turn to the spring rains. When we think of the spring rains, we also think very frequently of the accompaniment of thunder and lightning. And so today I would like to tell you a story from our native tradition about the thunderbird and how he came into being. Now, the thunderbird is one of the most revered icons of the indigenous people, not only in the northeast or here in the mid-section of the country, but everybody among the indigenous people recognizes the thunderbird's existence, even though they have never seen it, from North America down to the tip of South America and out into the Caribbean islands and possibly as far as Siberia. So the story I'm going to tell you is how the thunderbird came into existence. Back in the long ago time of our ancestors, all of the creatures of this planet lived together in great harmony and peace, including the two-leggeds. We shared all of the abundance of Mother Earth. We helped each other whenever the need arose to help one another with whatever task we had at hand. And the world was a very different place from the world we know today. Now, among the creatures that lived upon this planet at that time was the great red hawk. The red hawk was the most beautiful of all the birds. His feathers were brilliant scarlet, and when he stretched his great wingspan, the light of the sun turned those wings to shimmering ruby. He also had another gift. He could sing. He could sing like no other bird that had ever lived in this world before or has ever lived in this world since. Now, when it came to sharing and helping, he really wasn't of a great deal of use to anybody. He didn't have a lot of talents other than the fact he was beautiful and he could sing. He was of absolutely no use to the beaver to help him build his lodge. He certainly had a wingspan that was so large he couldn't go into the forest and help the bear gather its berries. And so he really had very little to offer except his beauty and his ability to sing. So this he would gladly shared, and he went all over the world, and he sang, and he spread his great wingspan, and all of the creatures came to admire him and to enjoy his beautiful music. Now, far to the west was a very strange clan of people called the Thunder Spirits. The clan of the Thunder Spirits were those beings who were the guardians of the Western Gate. Behind the Western Gate resided the clouds that brought the rain to Mother Earth. It was a task of the Thunder Spirits to open those gates at the appropriate time and allow the rain to come in order that the life on earth might flourish. They were very isolated, these Thunder Spirits, and subsequently they were also very grumpy. They complained a lot. And even when somebody did come to visit them, that just about all they did was complain, and so nobody went to visit them very often. So one day they got very troubled about that, and they decided they weren't going to open those gates. And the rains did not come, and the earth suffered a great drought, and there was much suffering across the land. And Gitchigumi, the Great Spirit, looking down upon the earth, realized that something very bad was happening. And so he called the Red Hawk to him. Now, it's often the way of Gitche Manito that when one part of creation doesn't work exactly the way it should, he reassigns the task to another part of creation. And so he called Red Hawk to him. And he said, Red Hawk, I have a very, very important task for you to perform. I will build you a sacred dwelling. You will enter that dwelling, and I will teach you a very sacred song and dance that will bring the rains, but it is to be performed only inside the sacred dwelling. You must never come out and allow the people to see or to hear either the dance or the song. Well, Red Hawk was really very honored. He knew this was an incredibly important task that he was being assigned, and since he really hadn't been very useful up until now, just kind of decorative, he decided that yes, he would accept this challenge. And so he entered the sacred dwelling, and whenever it was necessary for the world to receive the blessing of rain, he would flap his great wings and he would dance and he would sing his very sacred song, and the rains would come, and in the appropriate time he would cease and the rains would cease and the whole world would prosper. Well, this went on for a while and everything was good, but one day Red Hawk got to thinking, this is a really great song, and I really dance very well, and it's just a shame that the rest of the world can't see and enjoy this performance. So, contrary to his instructions, he stepped outside of the sacred lodge the next time that the earth needed rain, and he began to perform his sacred dance and his sacred song. Well, needless to say, all of the creatures gathered around. I mean, this was a very impressive performance, and right on cue, the rains began. And the rains began again, and they kept falling, and the creeks began to rise, and the rivers began to rise, and the rains didn't stop. Even though Red Hawk stopped his dancing and singing, it just kept right on raining. And what happened? A great flood flooded and covered the whole land, and there was much misery and much sorrow. So Gitche Manitou saw what had happened. Quickly he pushed the clouds back behind the western gate, stopped the rain, and then he went looking for Red Hawk. Well, he found Red Hawk, one very bedraggled, unhappy, miserable-looking bird sitting on the top of the tallest mountain, hanging his head in shame because he'd known he did something pretty bad. Well, Gitche Manitou is a very rational, forgiving entity. He didn't kill Red Hawk for what he had done. He didn't even really banish him. Well, not too far anyhow. Red Hawk, he said, from this day forward, your beautiful red feathers will be the color of the storm clouds. No longer will you have your beautiful song to sing. You are now to become the servants of the thunder beings. Whatever they bid you to do, you will do. You will help them in their work, and you will listen to all their complainings and all their grumblings. That's the price you're going to pay for disobeying. And at that moment, Red Hawk became the Thunderbird. So he went to live in the west, from which rain usually comes, behind the western gates. And whenever it was time, it was he whose wings helped the great storm clouds to move across the land. And when it was time, his wings moved them back. But every now and then, there'd be a little split in the clouds. And he'd look down upon the earth where he had dwelt in such honor. But whenever he looked upon the earth, whatever he looked upon was destroyed. For from his eyes flashed the lightning that can set the dry grass on fire and split a tree in two. His wings were the wings that made the sound of thunder. His eyes were the source of lightning. But we must not fear the thunder or the lightning, for they bring us the rain, which is the lifeblood of Mother Earth, and without which the earth and nothing on it can survive. And so we have the birth of the Thunderbird. And that's why you can never see the Thunderbird, because when you look, his lightning eyes will blind you. And yet, all the people know that there is a Thunderbird.
Thank you, Margaret. Now we'll hear a very special piece from Liz and Jeff.
Oh, I can feel spring in the air.
I can feel spring in the
Loveliness blows
air.
everywhere.
Loveliness blows everywhere.
Oh, sing for
Oh,
joy of all
sing.
things that waken to make the world fair. Oh, I can see spring in the
Oh,
sky.
I can feel spring in the
in
sky.
bright birds that wave as they
In bright birds that
fly.
wave as they
Oh,
fly.
sing for
Oh,
joy of all
sing.
things, for
That
that is the reason
this
this season is known as the spring. Oh, this is the birthday
Oh,
of
this
spring.
is the birthday of
Let
spring.
happiness make the
Let
world
happiness
ring.
make the world
Oh, shout
ring.
for joy
Shout
of all
for
things, a
joy
tribute
of all
to beauty we
things we
bring. Oh, I can feel spring in the
Oh,
wind.
I can feel spring in the
Its
wind.
miracle never
Its
will
miracle
end.
never will
Oh, sing
end.
for
Oh,
joy of all
sing.
things, for
That
that
is
is
the
the reason
reason
we
we
shout
shout
happy
happy
season.
season.
Today is the
I invite you to absorb the beauty of the images and richness that of the words of Thomas Berry in this excerpt from The Dream of the Earth. We should be clear about what happens when we destroy the living forms of this planet. The first consequence is that we destroy modes of divine presence. If we have a wonderful sense of the divine, it is because we live amid such awesome magnificence. If we have refinement of emotion and sensitivity, it is because of the delicacy, the fragrance, the indescribable beauty of song and music and rhythmic movement in the world about us. If we grow in our life vigor, it is because the earthly community challenges us, forces us to struggle to survive, but in the end reveals itself as a benign providence. But however benign, it must provide that absorbing drama of existence whereby we can experience the thrill of being alive in a fascinating and unending sequence of adventures. If we have powers of imagination, these are activated by the magic display of color and sound, of form and movement, such as we observe in the clouds in the sky, the trees and bushes and flowers, the waters and the wind, the singing birds, and the movement of the great blue whale through the sea. If we have words with which to speak and think and commune, words for the inner experience of the divine, words for the intimacies of life, if we have words for telling stories to our children, words with which we can sing, it is because of the impressions we have received from the variety of beings about us.
Thank you, Tracy. We're going to end today's service actually with a little bit of an interactive ritual where we'll be able to plant seeds.